The views and opinions expressed during this program are not necessarily those of Overseas Radio Network, the Expat Broadcasting Group, the staff, management, or broadcast partners. All information provided is for educational purposes only. Before taking action, consult a licensed professional.
The Coast to Coast.
Check 1, 2. Testing.
Now hear me.
You're listening to This Week in Costa Rica.
Once the volume control is set, do not readjust.
On the Overseas Radio Network. This Week in Costa Rica, bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica.
Listen, and decide in your own mind what sounds best.
Got a question? A comment?
They have to be dealt with on an altogether different level.
Or just want to talk to an expert on living in Costa Rica?
Brother, what a way to make a living.
Give us a call now.
Hello?
Lines are open and your answers are just one phone call away.
Now, if you have some suggestions to offer, we're willing to listen to you.
Ready?
This Week in Costa Rica, with your host,
Who you?
Corey Coates.
And now, folks,
It's showtime.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. My name is Corey Coates, coming to you live from Jaco Beach, Costa Rica. Live out of the Overseas Radio Broadcast Facility here in our lovely oceanfront studio. I want to apologize to you guys right off the bat. We're only going to do an hour today, but what an hour it's going to be. I'm going to bring on my dear friend again, Mr. Dan Stevens. He's the editor-in-chief and founder of the Costa Rican Times. And, I wanted to bring him on for more than just his normal news segment today, if I could. The reason being that he has a heck of a story to tell about his first time to Costa Rica and, of course, his return to Costa Rica and what it's like going out and starting this venture that he has, starting this online newspaper. Quite a paper that it is, too. I mean, there's a few articles in there, of course, that are controversial. He's certainly not afraid of the tough topics, and that's one of the things that I like about it. And that's one of the things I like about online news here in Costa Rica. These guys are they're not afraid of telling the tough stories. If you want the fluff, you can find the fluff, but if you want to get down to the dirt and you want a little bit of editorial, that's not a bad place to go, let me tell you. I want to send my apologies and regards on behalf of Mr. Lyle Head. Of course, he's not really sorry. He's been out traveling with family and spending some time up in California. We've been watching the pictures up on Facebook, of course, of his lovely wife and beautiful baby having a great time up there in Cali. We certainly do wish him all the best, and we can't wait for him to come back. It's my understanding that Lyle is currently somewhere in Houston, probably waiting for a plane. Hopefully not having too rough a time with the TSA today, but I can't wait to have him back in studio. Looks like we're going to resume our regular live broadcasting, co-hosting together here out of the Jaco Beach facility next Monday. And we might have some special guests on next Monday live here in person, I'm pretty excited to say. We're going to talk a little bit today about my mom and dad coming down, believe it or not. My mom and dad are a couple lovely retirees, beautiful Canadians, coming down to Costa Rica for the first time. And, we had an opportunity last week to have the founder of the Overseas Radio Network come here into studio and give some of his first impressions of this country. That's what I really like. I like that kind of virgin impression, the opportunity to talk to somebody who comes into the country for the first time and hear what they have to say about it. Having lived here for 6 years myself, I'm a little bit tainted. I have to say I'm a little bit biased. I fell in love with this country, in the moment they said hola. I still love this country, and, having moved out here to the beach now, I love it even more. So it's always good to see what that really untainted, unbiased, pure first impression is like. And I think, at least my experiences tell me that the majority of people who come to Costa Rica love it. Many of the people, they say, never come to Costa Rica once. You always come back again. And let's see if my mother and father are going to be the guinea pigs in this particular social experiment. Because it's been my experience that people who come down to Costa Rica, especially those in their 60s, like my mom and dad, who are part of that target demographic of the Overseas Radio Network, are the ones that you need to hear the stories of just as much as I do. Of course, on this program, we love to interview successful expat entrepreneurs. We like to talk to people who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond about what it is that they found in Costa Rica. And more importantly, we want you guys to engage in this conversation and talk a little bit about what you're looking for, perhaps in Costa Rica, perhaps not. Perhaps you listen to this show, as many people have emailed me and said, just because they'd like to hear the expat stories. They like to hear from people who have made that leap. They love to talk to people who have decided, I'm going to pack it up. I'm going to leave the snow brush in the trunk and I'm going to move to warmer climes. Well, I guess that's part of what this program is, and the engagement is easy. What I need you guys to do is to consider being part of this conversation with me. One of the things I love about doing radio is that it's a two-way conversation. It's not me sitting on a soapbox and preaching to you. I want to hear what you have to say. A lot of you guys have emailed me in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to get to many of those in this program. Some of you are wondering maybe right now, how do I do that? Well, there's a couple ways. Easiest way is Corey@overseasradio.com. But I'd love for you guys to engage in the conversation in the way that you feel most comfortable. Why don't you start by doing me a favor? Head on over to thisweekincostarica.com. That's the website that I put together just for this show. There you're going to find links to the Facebook, to the Twitter. I know a lot of the young people are saying, look, you don't put the in front of it. I don't care. It's the Facebook to me. You know? There you're going to find as well the number that you can call if you want to actually jump on the air with me live every Monday, 2 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. That number for you guys is 888-741-7472. Did you get that? 888-741-7472. You can engage in this conversation live. And as I mentioned, I produce my own show. I don't let anybody come in here and do this for me. No way. I'm that selfish about it. So if you guys want to call in and you want to participate in this conversation, you call in, I'm going to just put you on the air. Ooh, it's almost a dare. But I really would love for you guys to do it. I got a direct tweet the other day, and it was a question about buying TVs and electronics. They say, hey, I hear electronics are expensive in Costa Rica. Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. And this kind of ties into my mom and dad coming down here. They were nice enough to buy me that fancy little iPad mini. I find myself wandering around the studio and around the apartment and sitting by the pool and wishing that I had a little portable device, you know. These laptop things, I mean, they're great for the desk. They're not so great for the lap, am I wrong? I'm looking for something to kind of wander around and email and do that sort of thing. Well, here in Costa Rica, these kind of things are super expensive. The import taxes and tariffs imposed on electronics in Costa Rica are frankly absurd. Looking at the rates right now for an MP3 player, because that's what this thing's considered. 49.27% is the import tariff. Put the 13% sales tax on top of that. Well, that reasonably priced $329 iPad mini all of a sudden is a pretty expensive proposition. Now, you're dropping $700-800. Put some gas in the car and get yourself a Baconator while you're shopping, and this thing becomes an expensive proposition. So the direct answer for you guys who direct tweeted me was, man, they are expensive. TVs, 55.55%. Hairstyling products, including that lovely straightener that I have, 68.6%. Good Lord. Let's take a break here. We got to pay the bills. Coming up after this, we're going to have a conversation with my good friend Dan Stevens in San Jose about what's going on at the Costa Rican Times and a whole bunch more. 888-741-7472 if you want to chime in. You're hanging out with Corey on This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
Pack your bags and explore the world with us. You're listening to the Overseas Radio Network.
I'm Sarah, and this is my story.
I'm Ellen, and this is my story.
One night, I was at a bar. I was having fun with my friends.
I
had one too many drinks.
I
got behind the wheel to go home.
I got a cab to go home.
All of a sudden, from out of nowhere, a squirrel ran across the road.
It
happened so quickly, I barely had time to react.
The cabbie barely had time to react.
I swerved.
The cab swerved.
I can't believe it. I hit a guy.
I cannot believe it. The cabbie just missed a guy.
I wish I took a cab.
Thank goodness I took a cab.
You have the choice to save a life. Don't drive buzzed. It's a decision you'll never regret. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
This tree was never chopped down because this crutch never needed to be carved. Because these legs never grew weak. Because this child never got polio. Over the past 20 years, Rotary Club members have helped immunize over 2 billion children against polio. Now we're on the brink of eradicating this crippling disease once and for all. But we need your help. Thanks to an historic matching grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, every dollar Rotary raises will work twice as hard to make sure vaccines reach the people who need it, to protect the children of the world against polio forever. This is an opportunity to end polio now. Visit Rotary.org/endpolio. Rotary. Humanity in motion.
Looking to invest, live, or retire overseas? Before you pack your bags, you need to log on to NagelLog.com. It's the only stop you need to make for global business, asset protection, estate planning, overseas residency, and citizenship needs. Our experts have experience working in 41 countries around the world. Starting a business abroad can be overwhelming without expert help. We assist clients with foreign trust, foundations, corporations, LLCs, IBCs, and property acquisition. Need help with IRA assets abroad, capital formation, foreign securities issues, banking, brokerage, or finance needs? NagelLaw.com. We ensure compliance with U.S. tax and regulatory laws. We engineer global structures to help our clients achieve their personal and business objectives. To find out about our introductory personal asset protection plan, visit NagelLaw.com. NagelLaw.com. We represent capital overseas.
I put out way too much trash to think about recycling. I just don't get it.
Some things are very obvious, Maria.
Learn the difference between trash and recycling and more on our website, YouGottaBeKidding.org. Visit YouGottaBeKidding.org today.
Sit back and relax. You are tuned into the Overseas Radio Network.
This Week in Costa Rica is hosted by Canadian entrepreneur Corey Coates. Corey has been living and working as a professional in Costa Rica for over 5 years.
I've been lost in my own place, and I'm getting with it.
He's built a vast network of professional connections to help you with everything from immigration to relocation. Call in or send Corey an email to talk about the steps you need to take in making your dream of living in paradise a reality.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. Hanging out today in Jaco Beach, Costa Rica, broadcasting, of course, live from the Overseas Radio Network studios. Oceanfront. Ooh, it feels good to say that. Oceanfront. I just love those two words put together like that. Segment 2 means we're hanging out with my good friend, Mr. Dan Stevens in San Jose. He is the founder and editor-in-chief and sometime contributor to the Costa Rican Times, one of my favorite news sources here in Costa Rica. Like I said, guys, I like to wake up every morning and find out exactly what's going on in this pretty little country of ours. And I like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the things I always loved about Dan Stevens and his publication this year is that he's not afraid of any of those. So with no further ado, let me introduce my good friend, Dan. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Corey. I'm actually enjoying the beginning of summer down here in Costa Rica, and you really can't complain when the sun shines 24 hours a day, can you?
You got that right. Yesterday was just a scorcher, but I heard in San Jose that it was just a little bit nippy.
It was a little bit nippy, but I mean, actually, for me, it was fine. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt when it gets down to 75 degrees. But you always get to enjoy the Costa Ricans when it gets to about 75. They throw on their scarves and their ski boots, and so it's pretty funny.
You know, I think we covered that a bit last week because whenever you go to Multiplaza, which is the big shopping center in Escazú at this time of year, you see the kids with the mitts and the hats, and they've got the mitts with the strings on them and everything. They go way overboard, in my opinion.
For me, I find it humorous when they're wearing like the boots with the fur and the mini skirts. Look, you're either cold or you're hot. Choose one or the other. So
that's it. And I guess us gringos, when we come down here, we're accustomed to a little bit cooler temperature. So when it's 22, 23 degrees in the Central Valley, for us, that's still warm.
Yeah, well, I'm still getting used to seeing things in Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. So
Now, this time of year, of course, December in Costa Rica means a pretty big slowdown for just about everybody in their businesses. Everyone's getting their aguinaldo. Everybody's going shopping with their Christmas bonus. And there's the big event happening in San Jose, and I'd love to talk to you about it because you're right there on the ground. The Festival de la Luz.
Yes, it's coming up this weekend on Saturday. It's the supposed kickoff is at 6 p.m. With usually when it comes to Costa Rican events, that usually means about 6:30. But I recommend getting there early and leaving early as well. It's a great event. It's like a combination of Mardi Gras and Christmas all rolled into one. It gets pretty packed down there. I've been there once while I've been down here. And I enjoyed it, but for me, it's a one-time thing. I do recommend going. If you go, do not take very many valuables. There are a few robberies down there. Again, get there early, get yourself set up, and then I also recommend leaving a little bit early as well, just because the traffic getting out of town can kind of be a pain in the butt.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to put a link up on thisweekincostarica.com. Got to be careful when you load up those pages. Those Costa Rican pages, they love to have the music immediately kick in, but it's festivaldelaluz.cr. And why don't we give the listeners a bit of an indication exactly what this festival is, Dan?
It's a kickoff downtown, and what they have are floats that are. I mean, if anyone's been to Mardi Gras New Orleans, or they've seen the Macy's Day Parade, which of course this is we're not anywhere near it, but it's kind of like they throw together floats. They all have lights on them, and they come by. There's marching bands, and it's very traditional here in Costa Rica. And I do recommend people going down and seeing it at least once if they're down here.
It was my understanding last year, because I watched a little on television, I didn't get down there, that as many as 1 million people flood into San Jose to catch this show.
That's correct. And I did go about a year ago, and it was an experience, to say the least. I did enjoy seeing the floats come by. We had gotten there at about 4 o'clock, and we sat around with a cooler full of Coca-Cola and some sandwiches, and we got our spot set up. But if you get there late, it's going to be hard to find a place to actually sit and enjoy it, so I do recommend getting there early.
And, pretty much forget about driving down there. The best thing to do is to use some of the public transportation here to get in and out of that area, yeah?
That's right. If you're going down there, if you're going down there, I would try to get a hotel, if you could, in the area, instead of having to fight traffic to and from, and maybe get it Saturday morning, get yourself set up, and then head on down to the Paseo Colón and be able to watch the parade, and then just head back to the hotel and relax.
Now, you mentioned the big topic that comes up quite a bit here on this program for a lot of expats who are living here now or thinking of moving to Costa Rica, and that is security. And, you said be careful with the valuables and belongings that you bring to these kind of affairs. But, I mean, out of 1 million people, I wonder how many incidents are we really going to be talking about?
From talking to taxi drivers and people in the area, I would put in as much cash in your pocket as you are willing to lose. There are a lot of pickpockets that go in this festival because there are so many people there and they're rubbing up against you. There are a lot of incidents that happen, and so it's not an isolated 5 or 10 incidents. It's a very, very common during this festival.
I guess the good news is we have seen a dramatic increase in police presence at these events and countrywide. I mean, heck, I was walking around Jaco yesterday. I didn't get 4 blocks without seeing 6 cops. But at the end of the day, some of these pickpocketers they're opportunists. They're really good at getting their hand in there, getting what they want and getting out, going unnoticed. So 1 million cops standing around isn't going to make any difference. It's really that savvy spectator who's going to make
right. I agree with that. And I mean, and most people they're really like wrapped up in the festivities, and they're not really paying attention to what's going on in their pocket. And those cops in Jaco, I know they're just there to go after you. So I understand that.
Yeah, that's right. They called it in. Let me tell you though, I mean, the funny thing is in Costa Rica, when we talk about security, not to get too far off topic here, but I mean, that's what it really is. We're talking about a lot of security incidents that I've run into that are, again, that crime of opportunity, where in my opinion and in my experience, a lot of the criminal activity we see here in Costa Rica is based on individuals who don't want to see your face when they do it. They kind of want to get away with it. They want to sneak into your house and get your stuff and get out without having any incident, yeah?
Well, one of the biggest things in Costa Rica with the culture is they're very timid and they're very afraid of confrontation in general. So a lot of the crimes aren't assault. They aren't murders. What they are they're actually just petty theft is the biggest thing down here. And if because the law permits stealing under about $1,000. As petty theft, and you can't really do anything about it. It kind of promotes it, and it happens a lot. So just protect your valuables. Just make sure that what I recommend for people is to have one of those inner fanny packs and just put all your valuables in that. They're not going to reach inside your pants and try to take it out. It's usually just trying to reach in your pocket, etc. So just put all your valuables. Leave your passport in the hotel. Carry a copy of it with you, but don't carry anything that you don't want to get stolen. And again, I would recommend one of those inner fanny packs just to have I think they're called belt packs or whatever, to carry one of those. I know they're not very popular, not very cool, but you know what? It doesn't matter if you're cool. At least you have your stuff at the end of the night.
That's right. Great points, great tips from Dan Stevens, the editor-in-chief and founder of the Costa Rican Times. We got to take a little bit of a break here. If you guys want to chime in on this conversation, that's 888-741-7472. You can head over to thisweekincostarica.com, where I'm going to have links to the Festival de la Luz, which is coming up this weekend, the big event here, the Christmas event in Costa Rica. I'm going to have Dan stick around, though, and hang out with you guys a bit more, because there's a whole bunch more to chat about. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a break, and I recommend you do. Enjoy these commercials. See you in a bit.
You're tuned in to overseasradio.com, your online radio resource about life abroad.
From Future Story News in London, I'm Natalie Powell. Public anger continues in Egypt over plans in the country to cast votes in a controversial referendum on a new constitution. Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi has given the army the power to arrest civilians in a bid to maintain security in the country. The president has refused to put a stop to the vote scheduled for the 15th of December. Though he has cancelled a decree that granted him sweeping powers, which meant that his decision could not be revoked by any authority. However, these measures have so far failed to quell protests and unrest across the country. The two Australian radio presenters who made a prank call to the London hospital treating the pregnant Duchess of Cambridge have spoken of their concern for the family of a nurse that committed suicide soon after their prank. Today FM's DJs Mel Gregg and Michael Christian broke their silence with interviews on two commercial networks after nurse Jacinta Saldana was found dead. Brian Portland is following the story from Brisbane.
Gregg said she hadn't stopped thinking about the nurse since she received the news of her death early on Saturday morning. She said the idea for the prank call came up in a team meeting, and Christian declined to reveal what legal training the pair had received from Today FM. They were shocked when the prank succeeded. Gregg said they just wanted to be hung up on with their silly voices. Asked if they would make contact with Jacinta Saldana's family, Gregg said it was not an appropriate time to do that yet. The pair declined to speculate on further career moves following the suspension of their radio show. Austereo said that the Hot 30 show, presented by Gregg and Christian, had been terminated and that there was a company-wide suspension of prank calls. Gregg and Christian would not return to the airwaves until further notice, the company said in a statement.
Italy's Prime Minister Mario Monti has announced plans to step down from the position. Mr. Monti was brought in as the unelected leader of a technocrat government in order to help get the country out of financial difficulty. But after losing the backing of Parliament, Mr. Monti says he's decided to resign. Our Europe correspondent Sandra Gatman reports.
Italian stocks dropped more than 3% on Monday on the news acting Prime Minister Mario Monti plans to retreat from leadership, 13 months after receiving a mandate to set Italy on a path of reforms, which many analysts say have worked well to stabilize the country. But a withdrawal of support from former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi's People's Freedom Party means new elections will be called in February. Waiting in the wings is Pierluigi Bersani, the leader of the centre-left Democratic Party, who's been leading in the polls vehicles. And although not a frontrunner, ousted Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi is also vying for the position, following a recent decision to run again.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Sit back and relax. You are tuned into the Overseas Radio Network.
Good. What? What is it?
This week in Costa Rica. Fun, informative, and your questions answered. Talk live with one of our on-air experts and start living your dream now.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. You're hanging out with Corey. Only because Lyle's not here. Not his fault. He's up in Canada. No? He's up in the United States. For some reason, as a Canadian, I always think that everybody's in Canada. I don't know what that is. But we do have somebody on today that I love chatting with. This is Mr. Dan Stevens, editor-in-chief and founder of the Costa Rican Times, bringing us the news and the blues of Costa Rica. And I think there's a little bit more we got to cover here. Last week, we talked about the Marchamo. And Dan, if I can get your update on what's going on with that, maybe we should help the listeners again with exactly what that is.
Yeah, well, the Marchamo, again, is the mandatory insurance they require on vehicles. It's kind of a liability insurance. And the Reteve is the vehicle inspection that is required each year. The biggest thing happening on that right now is, as it is in Costa Rica, most times it doesn't pay to be first to do anything.
Okay, what exactly do you mean by that?
Especially when a law is passed. For example, when it comes to, there was a law passed about a month and a half, 2 months ago that talked about for wait staff in restaurants that the tips were now going to be included in salary. And this was a big debate that they had between employees and employers, and they were having to fire people and hire them back on in order to get them set up with this. And it was really, really a pain. And the lawmakers really didn't think it through. And then after about a month and a half of both employees and employers complaining, they said, well, we're going to think about this, and you don't have to do anything for about 6 months, okay? And so the first the first 10 or 15 days of people that actually followed the law were just like, okay, why did I do this? But anyway, on that note, when it comes to Marchamo, what they did is they increased it they did a different formula on the depreciation of vehicles, which increased the Marchamo rate between 10 and 35%, depending on type of vehicle, motorcycle, etc. And they passed this about a month ago, and a lot of people said, okay, you know what, I'm going to get this done and get it paid off and get it over with so I don't have to worry about it in the new year. And then they went and paid the Marchamo, and they said, well, we made a mistake on the formula, so we owe you money. And so now they have to wait between 2 and 5 weeks to get that money back for the money they paid on the Marchamo, as well as take an extra trip to San Jose to get it done.
Yeah.
So doesn't always pay to do things quickly in Costa Rica. It's very good to wait for a law to get instated and actually wait about a month for see what happens with it because they don't usually think through the complete process when passing a law down here.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, a lot of legislation gets pushed through based on a political agenda, and then as a result, a lot of people such as you and I who think that the best thing to do is to run down to the bank and get this taken care of, get caught up in the system.
Yeah, that's right. And one thing that I like, though, is there's actually a company called shippingcostarica.com. And they are providing a service where if you don't want to go wait in line at Reteve or contact your lawyer to get your Marchamo paid or wait to get that done, then they'll actually do that for you. It only costs $100, and it actually saves you about a day's time driving to San Jose. They'll actually get your car and actually do it for you. So it's a worthwhile process for anyone that's interested.
Well, that's a huge opportunity because I know that, I mean, to take a day off for many of us is almost an impossibility. And for a lot of Costa Ricans to have this taken care of, I mean, that's a day off work to go and go through this entire process. So somebody who offers that service to me is well worth $100.
Yeah, it's definitely worth $100. I've talked to a few friends down here, and they're like, oh, I'm definitely taking advantage of that. They just drop their car off in the morning, and then all of a sudden they get it dropped back to them when they get off work in the afternoon, and life is good. So.
You know, I'm going through a lot of the articles here that you have on the Costa Rican Times, which is CostaRicanTimes.com. And again, I'm trying not to get distracted and read your great paper. But I know there's something coming up in the next couple of days where there's going to be a beach cleanup that you guys are involved in.
We're not personally involved with it. I mean, I might be able to get out there, but we're trying to promote it. It's being promoted by the Chamber of Commerce of the Central Pacific, and what they're doing is a Christmas beach cleanup in Hako. It's on Wednesday, December 19th. It begins at 8 a.m. sharp, not Tico time, so don't be late. And the beach cleanup will start at the El Bohio restaurant on Calle Bohio. And they have corporate sponsors. And if you're interested, we'll be doing an article on that and posting it on our Facebook page as well as on our newspaper within the next about 24 hours. So we'll get that information out there for anyone who wants to be involved with that beach cleanup in Hako.
You know, it's great to see because, I live here in Hako, and that's where the studios are, and we overlook the beach here at the Overseas Radio Studio. So it's amazing to me to see pretty much every Saturday morning the beach is flooded with people, families and kids, cleaning up the beach and making this a really family-friendly and beautiful place to live and work.
Yeah, that's a goal of the Chamber of Commerce in the Central Pacific. I actually know the guy that's running this, a guy named Philip Scher. He's a great guy, lives in Hako. He and his wife travel back and forth to Toronto and then back to Hako. And they really want to improve the image and the community in Hako.
Okay, Dan, we got a few minutes left here, and I love to take this opportunity to continue to speak with you a little bit about the volunteer work that you're doing with the orphanage and the great things that you were doing over there. Can we get a bit of a progress report on that?
Sure. We actually, even after I got an email from AM Costa Rica last week asking if it was a scam, which was nice, we are actually going to be having the Christmas party on December 20th. We have a couple of Hako residents that are going to be bringing face painters, and we're collecting gifts as we speak. I have a person that's going to donate about $500 to $1,000 to help us purchase gifts for all the kids there. And our goal is to bring as many people as we can and get and surround these kids with love and happiness for the Christmas holidays. And we'll be having this on December 20th at 1 p.m. at the orphanage on the road from Escazú to Alajuelita.
I understand you guys just received a package as well that's going to be terribly helpful.
Correct. We actually got contacted from a lady named Alexandra who is coming down on December 17th and going to be staying in the Tamarindo area. She contacted the Costa Rican Times a few days ago and asked about community involvement she could be be involved with in Costa Rica when she came down here. Told her a little about the orphanage. She'll be bringing a suitcase down of medical supplies for the kids and shipping that from Tamarindo to San Jose so we can pick it up. And then she'll be involved with a church group, from what I understand, in the Tamarindo area. And I hooked her up with a gentleman up there that's going to help her be more involved in the community up there.
Sounds great. Well, Dan Stevens, is there any way that people can get a hold of you other than going to CostaRicanTimes.com?
They can always email me, which is info@CostaRicanTimes.com. Or they can call our U.S. number, which is 954-606-5866, and we're able to get those messages quickly and easily. So
much appreciated. I think you're doing great work here, Dan, and I think that you're a super member of the expat community, and I want you to keep fighting the good fight, my friend.
I will do, Corey. And hey, try to enjoy this beautiful sunny weather and try to get out of the office for at least a couple hours today, all right?
Hey, I always find that time. Don't you worry about it, my friend.
Sounds good.
All right, I might see you at the Festival de Luz.
All right, sounds good, Corey. Have a wonderful day, and it's a pleasure talking with you.
Right back at you, buddy. You know, I love having a guy on such as Dan because not simply because I feel like he has the best online news source. I'm not going to say that. He has a online news source, as many do, and it's one of the 5 or 6 that I read on a daily basis to kind of keep abreast of what's going on here in Costa Rica. And again, I'm going to post the link over to his stuff, and I think it's fantastic because really what he brings to the table is another voice. It's nice because many of the online news sources that I do read tend to copy each other and use some of the same stories. You know, we spoke a few times that if you're looking for updated information on Costa Rica, I would say one of the best ways to go is to go to La Nación, which is the national newspaper. It's nacion.com. But at the same time, I like a little slant. I like a little editorial. I like a little opinion. I like a little bit of flavor on my meat. And that's definitely what Dan brings to the table, is an opportunity for us to hear the news from an angle of an expat who's here. A guy like you and me who's taken that leap and moved down to Costa Rica, sees the good, sees the bad, sees the ugly, gets the great emails, gets the ugly emails, gets robbed or doesn't, and isn't afraid to tell you the truth. Because I can tell you right now, if I brought on a promoter from Festival de la Luz, they would say, yes, there's possibilities of crime. There might be concerns at the Festival de la Luz. But Dan's going to tell you straight up, hey, be careful, there's pickpocketers out there in that million people. There's people who just come to the Festival de la Luz to take your colonies right out of your jeans. Something to think about, guys. Anyway, I want to thank Dan Stevens once again for joining us on the program. He'll be back next week, bringing us some more news and blues from Costa Rica. In the meantime, I'm going to take a bit of a break here and maybe freshen up my tea. I want you guys to sit tight. If you want to call me, 888-741-7472. You're listening to Corey on This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
OverseasRadio.com, broadcasting from Panama to Paris and beyond.
Arr, mateys. Welcome to the ocean. I've sailed the seven seas 100 times and found something I like even more than me treasure. 'Tis the ocean, beautiful and clear. Right now I be sailing over the Great Barrier Reef. It just shivers me timbers thinking of all the fish and coral below me. Wait, what's that floating by? A plastic bag! By Blackbeard's eye patch, that's disgusting. Why did you know that many of these things come from folks throwing them carelessly on the ground? It be true. Lend us a hand by always recycling and disposing of your trash properly. Boys, get the plank ready. Somebody's got to dive in and get that bag. Any volunteers? All right, fine. I'll do it myself. Cannonball! Find out what you can do to help keep the oceans healthy at keepoceansclean.org. Brought to you by the Keep Oceans Clean Alliance and the Ad Council.
Have you ever dreamed of working abroad? Are you an expat looking for a job? Then you need to visit expatcareers.com, the premier worldwide all-industry expatriate job site. We are dedicated to providing the best employment opportunities for professionals and experienced expatriates, or for those simply wishing to relocate within their home country. We provide job seekers with access to vacancies and offer recruiters a unique opportunity to advertise these vacancies to the best, most forward-looking individuals within their industry. We are not a recruitment or employment agency. We do, however, showcase the best jobs across the globe on a central, user-friendly careers website. At expatcareers.com, we are dedicated to providing the best employment opportunities for professional and experienced expatriates, or for those simply wishing to relocate within their home country or overseas. The next time you are looking for a change of pace, don't just look for a job. Look for a career. expatcareers.com. That's www.expatcareers.com.
You've decided that you want to move overseas for that quality of life experience you always dreamed of. But you don't want to give up the best of back home. We agree. Things like high-speed internet, safe neighborhoods where you can stroll along a shaded sidewalk, a place where you know your neighbors and you have friends close by. These are important. Grand Pacifica Beach and Golf Resort gives you the best comforts of back home paired with the exceptional lifestyle only available south of the border. Imagine strolling along over 3 miles of secluded beach, playing a round of golf along the ocean, surfing a world-class break all to yourself, enjoying a fine meal on your balcony and toasting to another spectacular sunset. All this and more can be yours only an hour from Managua. Complete home and lot packages start under $100,000 and a nice home on the golf course is yours for the mid-twos. Come visit for a weekend and enjoy our oceanside golf course. Ride horseback on the beach, meet your future neighbors, and make some new friends. Grand Pacifica may be a place you'd like to call home. For more information, email Mike at mikesgringolife.com. That's Mike at mikesgringolife.com.
I don't recycle. I mean, we can just find another planet for your kids to live on, you know?
Log on to yougottabekidding.org and learn about all the ways you can recycle.
Hey, recycling's just not my thing.
Don't be that guy. Log on to yougottabekidding.org.
OverseasRadio.com, broadcasting from Panama to Paris and beyond.
You know
know what I just heard? What?
Costa Rica has the reputation of being the happiest country on earth.
But it gets better.
This Week in Costa Rica brings you the best information.
The best.
From the people who understand why so many choose to call this beautiful place home. Bringing you the latest information from expats, experts, and people just like you who chose to escape, retire, and live in Costa Rica. This Week in Costa Rica. Pura Vida.
Welcome back to This Week in Costa Rica. You're spending a lovely, lovely sunny afternoon here with Corey, hanging out with you guys on Jaco Beach, Costa Rica on the West Coast, staring out over the sea from the Overseas Radio Broadcast Facility, oceanfront. Ooh, do I like my job some days, got to tell you. Of course, it's just you and me hanging out today. Mr. Lyle Head, as we mentioned earlier, is up there in Houston, flying back to Costa Rica, enjoyed a couple weeks vacations with his family. Did I say vacations? Did I pluralize that? You know what happens in a place like Costa Rica? You live here so long. 6.5 years right now is, by my account, for me at least. And you start becoming a little bit of a tico. Tico, of course, being a Costa Rican here. And if I pluralized vacation, I do apologize. You know, what's funny is having taught ESL for many, many years, it meant that I had a lot of great conversations with many Costa Ricans of many different stripes and many different professions from many different backgrounds. And you tend to adopt a lot of the English errors, to put it lightly. Of course, in Spanish, it's vacaciones, which means I'm going to take my vacations. And I guess Lyle has been enjoying his vacations. It's funny because, you know, I've been working on my Spanish a little bit more because I've had a, let's say, more intimate relationship with a Costa Rican in the last 2 months. And it's been a great opportunity. I always recommend one of the best ways to pick up a second language is to befriend someone who speaks it natively. And it's great because if you make that arrangement with this individual to say, look, I will correct your English constantly if you correct my Spanish. I think we covered that quite a bit last week. And you know what I wanted to do is I got actually a couple of emails from people. Corey at Overseas Radio, if you guys want to email me, you certainly can. And one of them was they wanted some follow-up on the trip of Mr. David Gregerson and his experiences here and his time here in Costa Rica. And I would love to follow up on that a little bit. What I probably will do is give him a ring next week and maybe Skype him in for a segment on this show. Because I think it's important that what he did and what he may be planning to do is what we recommend. Now, I don't know what his plans are going to be, of course. That's his life and his family. But there are a couple of considerations that I wanted to bring to the table here for you guys, because I know you're thinking about expatriating. Many of you are listening to this program now, of course, because you're thinking about coming to Costa Rica. Well, I think it's important to note some of the steps that David has taken and may or may not be taking in the future to ensure that he is doing this in a responsible fashion. Lyle and I sit here many, many days and say, boy, we watch so many expats fail. And it's not because of them. It's because the plan that they put together normally is unreasonable. A lot of people think, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to put my family in a duffel bag, get on a plane and move to a foreign country and everything will work out just fine. Well, even when I say it, you know, it's absurd. Now that's what I did, of course. So don't look at me for the example. I did exactly that. I quit my job. I grabbed my girlfriend and we packed up a couple bags and we just moved to Costa Rica. We took that super leap where we said, oh, I don't know. I hope I can find a job, you know. I hope we can make this work. But we were young, and we were foolish, and we made that leap, and it worked out. Now, David Gregerson has a different story to tell. He has a lovely wife and 3 lovely children. For a man such as he to just jump on a plane and move to Costa Rica with a sack full of cash and a head full of dreams. Might be nice for him, but it might not be so nice for them. Think about mom and the kids. There's a series of stages that one must take in order to make something like this even possibly successful. Even the most due diligent individual cannot guarantee that his or her wife or husband is going to even like this place. That his or her kid, 5, 7, 9, 15, 25 years old, is even going to enjoy Costa Rica. There's a lot to handle here. There's a lot to handle anywhere you go. Think about what it's like if you were in the United States now and you decided to move from Portland, Oregon to Gainesville, Florida. Just think about that for a moment. Put that in your head. How radical would the change be? How different is the community going to be? How different are those two states? What are some of the differences in the laws, the taxes, the school system, everything? And don't forget, you got those kids. Those kids are going to be uprooted and taken to that new place. Oh, my God. And that's just going across the U.S. There's no new federal concerns. There's no language barrier. There's no vast cultural divide. It's much, much greater than that when you decide to pick up your family and move it to a foreign country. There's a lot of conversations over many, many dinners. It's really deciding exactly if this is something that everyone's on board for. And this is really the key. You know, we all know with kids that the younglings will do just about anything. As they get older, they start putting those roots down in their communities. They love their school. They love their friends. They can't imagine anything but their routine. As they start entering those teen years, ooh, boy, it gets complicated from there. Their high school, their social circles, their friends, that's everything. Now, we're talking about changing that completely. And remember, the older you get, the harder it can be to adjust to another culture. The more difficult it can be for you to adopt that second language. I'm a pretty old man now, sitting here. You know, feels like it some days. 37. I know a lot of you listening right now are saying you're a jerk. You're not old at all, but I feel pretty old because that brain starts to harden. The ability to absorb material and learn things starts to firm up. Starts to build a little bit of a shell around there, and you don't pick things up as quick. What I noticed is that when we took Mr. Gregerson out on a bit of a tour here in the area in Jaco to take a look at some different areas for possibly his family and his kids, of course, the first stop is, where can I live? Jaco's beautiful, but there's other communities around this area that we looked at. But during this trip, the first and only consideration on his mind, and you guys as parents who are listening now know, are, what about my kids? Where are they going to play? Who are they going to hang out with? And most importantly, what kind of education are they going to receive here in Costa Rica? Moving forward in this program, I'm excited to say that I'm bringing on the director of the Falcon Institute. We're going to have a conversation with the administrator of that school. The Falcon Institute is an accredited school here in Herradura, which is just outside of Jaco Beach, Costa Rica. A popular bilingual private school, but again, accredited and recognized in the United States. This is the key. Picking up your kids and bringing them to Costa Rica is beautiful, but hey, what if their education ain't worth much when you return to the United States, if you do? What kind of teachers are we talking about here? What kind of curriculum are we looking at? What are the hours like? What's the location like? Security? All of these things. These are huge questions. I'm trying now to take the experiences of my mom and dad coming to Costa Rica next week. Mr. David Gregerson having come to Costa Rica last week and thinking about expatriating his family. And start to see this program and see what we can do through their eyes. It's very easy for Lyle and I to sit here in the studio and talk about how great our lives are. You know, hey, we're in our 30s and we got it all figured out. Well, maybe not so much, but we are on to something. But I guess what I'm trying to drive at is how we can make this program a greater return on your investment, and your investment is your time. How we can make this program something that you will utilize as a resource, maybe not necessarily to move to Costa Rica, but even to expatriate to another country, because some of the tips and tricks that we bring forward for you guys here are valuable no matter where you go. I'm going to Singapore, I'm going to Asia, I'm going to Cambodia, I'm going to Africa, I don't know. But a lot of the preparation that you need to make in advance of that is what we do want to cover here. If you guys want to participate in this, I love the feedback, negative and positive. I love when you guys send me those emails. I love when you guys tweet. I love when you post on our Facebook. I love when you call me. I love all of it. Because what it gives me a chance to do is to step back and say, look, this show is not about me. This is not me telling you how I've been successful as an expat. This show is about sharing, opening a dialogue, and having a conversation about some of the legitimate concerns and fears that you will have about becoming an expat. The motivations for you leaving your country, if you so choose, are yours. Mine were simple. I was young and I felt like I needed to do something different and I needed to do it now. You guys maybe feel like you've done it and you want to do something different and you're going to do it later. Or you might feel like I just need to challenge myself. I need something different. Maybe you feel like you're being choked. Maybe you feel the government is stepping on your neck. Maybe you just hate your job. Maybe you just want to take that snow brush and snap it over your knee and say, that's it, man. I can't take this weather anymore. Or maybe you've put in your time and you feel like you deserve something more. I don't know. But I do know this. I want you guys to tune in this and each and every week. If you missed the live program, of course, you can go over to overseasradio.com and pick this up on demand. Next week, we're going to do a 2-hour show with Lyle, my parents, and a whole bunch more. I got to go, man. Play some commercials, pay some bills, maybe swim in the sea, have a lobster. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You can do so every Monday, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is Corey on This Week in Costa Rica, only on the Overseas Radio Network.
Sit back and relax. You are tuned into the Overseas